Hello everyone, have a nice day. Today, we'll follow Jack and Tutien through a fragile moment of hope when a quiet cafe, a held hand, and a ringless promise feel more real than any ceremony. If you find it interesting, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the next videos. The flower cafe was louder than it looked. Not with music, there was only a soft piano somewhere inside, and the whisper of leaves but with meaning. Every petal, every ripple in the koi pond, every breath Tutien took felt like it carried a question that neither of them dared to say out loud. Jack reached across the small wooden table and covered her hand with his. No ring, no vows rehearsed, no guests, no camera, just skin on skin. Tutien's fingers trembled beneath his palm, as if her body still didn't trust happiness to stay. "Are you scared?" Jack asked, quietly enough that only she could hear. Tutien tried to smile. It came out thin, brave, and fragile at once. "I'm scared that if I say it out loud, it will disappear." Jack's eyes didn't move from hers. "Then don't say it out loud," he murmured. "Hold it here." He pressed her hand gently against his chest, right over his heartbeat. And for a second, the world softened, like the cafe itself was holding its breath to witness something holy. Then Jack's gaze flickered past her shoulder. A figure, maybe a customer, maybe a staff member, paused near the hydrangeas, half hidden by blooms. Jack's jaw tightened, instinctive, protective. When he blinked again, the figure was gone. Tutien noticed the change immediately. "What is it?" Jack forced his voice back into warmth. "Nothing. Just stay close to me." She nodded, swallowing the fear she hated. Their hands returned to the table, still linked to an invisible ring. And that touch pulled Jack back to the morning, when he'd woken up with his heart sprinting. He had seen her in a wedding dress. White, soft, unreal, like moonlight stitched into fabric. She stood in front of him smiling, not the playful smile she used to hide pain, but a quiet one, the kind people wear when they finally feel safe. Jack had stepped forward in that dream. He remembered reaching for her. And then everything went blank. No guests. No laughter. No music. No Mom Lodi crying happy tears. No one clapped. No one witnessed. Just the two of them, standing in a silence so clean, it felt deliberate, like somebody had erased the world to erase proof. Jack had jolted awake, sweating, staring at the ceiling while the room stayed too still. On the bedside table, a cup of water, medicine strips, and his phone, dark screen but heavy with presence. He touched his forehead and felt the stubborn heat again. Fever, yes, but also something else, deeper. A warning wrapped in beauty. Downstairs, the smell of black bean porridge and fruit cut through the house like comfort trying its best. Tutien moved gently, careful with him the way she always was when she loved someone quietly, completely, without asking for applause. "You need to eat," she told him, placing the bowl down as if it was fragile. "And don't argue." Jack attempted a smile, but it faded when her palm touched his forehead. "It's still warm," she whispered. "It's better," he lied. Tutien grabbed the small bottle of oil and warmed it between her hands. She leaned closer, eyes focused, brows pinched with worry. "You fainted. I'm not letting you act strong today." He watched her as this woman who had survived loneliness, who still flinched at sudden happiness, who spoke softly but carried courage like bone. "I'll go to the hospital," Jack said finally. "For peace of mind." Tutien's shoulders loosened, but her eyes stayed serious. "And I'm going too." Jack hesitated. "You already had your checkup." "I want to be healthy," she answered, more to herself than to him. "When I was on the mountain, I didn't have conditions. Now, I do. And I have you. They left while the sky looked undecided gray light, the smell of rain hanging in the air. On the road, the countryside blurred past like watercolor. Jack drove with both hands tight on the wheel, jaw clenched against dizziness. Tu Tien held their IDs in her lap, glancing at him every few seconds like she was counting his breaths. His phone rang. Mom Lurty. Jack answered quickly, voice gentle. Mom, we're going to the hospital. Just a checkup. Tu Tien is with me. Mom Luti's worry spilled through the speaker even without words. Jack promised again and again that it was fine, that he'd call right after, that she shouldn't panic. When he ended the call, Tu Tien whispered, "She didn't sleep last night." Jack nodded. I know. At the hospital, fluorescent lights made everything look sharper than it felt. Registration forms, waiting chairs, voices calling names, the smell of disinfectant that always made the heart brace. Jack paid for the best package without hesitation. Just make sure we know everything. Tu Tien sat in the waiting area, hands folded, eyes fixed on the door to the examination rooms. Jack tried to stay steady beside her, but his body felt heavy, like the flu was pulling him downward by the bones. When Tu Tien returned with her ultrasound and papers, her face looked lighter, almost disbelieving. Jack stood up so fast, his vision flickered. What did they say? Tu Tien held the results to her chest, as if someone might take them away. The doctor said, "It's better. Hormones are more balanced. My cycle is more regular." Jack's throat tightened. "That's good," he breathed, but the words didn't hold the relief he felt. His eyes went glossy before he could stop it. Tu Tien whispered, "If I follow the regimen, in the future, I can get pregnant naturally." Jack didn't answer right away. He simply reached for her hand. Not a celebration, not a performance, just gratitude pressed into her skin. Then it was his turn. His results came with a different kind of truth. Flu B. Rest. Medicine. No pushing through. Even Jack's CEO, niche, deals and heavy projects couldn't negotiate with his own body. They left the hospital with two kinds of hope, hers blooming, his fragile but manageable. Later, after shopping and a small laugh over sun shirts, Tu Tien bought him shoes, insisting, cheeks flushed, eyes stubborn with love. Jack tried to refuse, then gave in because he knew what it meant to her, to give, not only to receive. And that's how they ended up here, at the Flower Café, guava juice on the table, koi circling like quiet blessings, hydrangeas blooming like wedding bouquets that didn't need a ceremony. Tu Tien stared at their hands. Jack leaned in. "Listen," he said softly. "If the world doesn't witness our wedding, then we'll witness it ourselves." Tu Tien's lips parted. Her eyes shimmered. "Is this our true wedding?" Jack squeezed her fingers ringless, steady, absolute. "Right here," he whispered. Behind the hydrangeas, a phone buzzed somewhere, one sharp vibration, then silence. Jack's gaze lifted again, and the hairs on his arms rose. Something about this piece felt watched. Jack didn't move his hand away. He kept Tu Tien's fingers inside his palm like a promise he could physically protect. But his eyes stayed alert, scanning the garden cafe in small, controlled sweeps, like he was trying to confirm what his instincts had already decided. Tu Tien noticed. Her thumb brushed the side of his hand, a quiet question. "You're thinking about something again." Jack forced a smile. "I'm thinking about how lucky I am." It was true, but it wasn't the whole truth. The cafe looked harmless. Families taking photos near the flowers, a couple laughing softly by the koi pond, staff walking with trays of drinks. Yet the air carried that strange feeling Jack had learned to respect, like a room that smiled too easily. Tu Tien turned her head toward the hydrangeas. "Do you want to sit inside?" Jack shook his head. "No. We stay here. I can see everything." That answer should have sounded romantic. But to Tu Tien, it sounded like a shield raised before an unseen hit. She swallowed. "Jack, am I bringing you trouble again?" His gaze snapped back to her, immediate and firm. "No." The word landed hard, like he was refusing to let her carry that guilt ever again. "You're not trouble," he continued, slower now. "You're my home." Tu Tien's eyes filled instantly. She looked away, embarrassed by how quickly she broke. Her voice came out small. "Then why do I still feel like happiness is temporary?" Jack's thumb stroked her knuckles once, gentle. "Because someone taught you that. And because you survived it." A breeze lifted a few petals onto the table. Tu Tien watched them settle beside their drinks, fragile and real. Jack leaned forward, lowering his voice. "This morning, I dreamed of you in a wedding dress." Tu Tien froze, then laughed nervously. "Really?" Jack nodded, but his expression didn't laugh with her. "In the dream, you were beautiful," he said. "You were smiling. And I thought, this is it. This is our day." Tu Tien's smile faded. Her fingers tightened on his. "But there were no witnesses," Jack added. "No one. Not even your mom. Not mine. No photos. Nothing." Tu Tien's throat bobbed as she swallowed. "That's strange." "It felt like someone erased it," Jack said quietly. "Like the world wasn't allowed to see you become mine." The words made Tu Tien's skin prickle. The cafe suddenly felt less like a garden and more like a stage with the lights turned low. She leaned closer. "Do you think, does it mean something bad?" Jack didn't want to scare her, but he also refused to lie. "I think," he said carefully, "it means we can't be careless. Not with your health. Not with my work. Not with us." Tu Tien stared down at their hands, still joined without a ring. "So, is this why you want to build the farm?" Jack's eyes softened. "Yes." He looked past her, at the rows of flowers, the small paths winding between trees, the way sunlight tried to break through clouds. "A place that's ours," he continued, "where you can plant what you love, where you can make cakes, sell them, learn everything you want, where you don't have to keep proving you deserve peace." Tu Tien's lips trembled. "And you?" Jack exhaled. "And me. I'll go there when work suffocates me. I'll breathe again. With you." For a moment, the tension eased. Then Jack's phone buzzed in his pocket, one short vibration. No ringtone. He pulled it out. Unknown number. No message, just a missed call that vanished as quickly as it appeared. Jack's jaw tightened. He turned the screen slightly away from Tu Tien, instinctively. But she saw his face. "What is it?" she whispered. Jack locked the phone and slid it away. "Nothing important." Tu Tien didn't believe him, but she didn't push. She only squeezed his hand, as if saying, "If it's danger, let me face it with you." Jack's chest tightened again, love and fear twisting together. He lifted their joined hands slightly and spoke like he was making a vow in a church no one else could enter. "No ring," he murmured. "No witnesses." Tu Tien nodded, tears slipping free now. Jack held her gaze, unwavering. But this is still real. Outside, thunder rumbled far away, soft, distant. The flowers swayed. The koi pond rippled. And at that small table, In the middle of a garden that looked like a wedding bouquet, Jack and Tutien stayed hand in hand, as if daring the world to erase them again.
Hello everyone, in this episode, Jack wakes from haunting dream Tutien in a wedding dress, beauty yet unreal, no guests, no photos, and as if their marriage were erased, still recovering from illness. He insists on hospital checkup for peace of mind, and Tutien goes to, determined to protect her health after years of hardship. At the hospital, Tutien receives encouraging news, and her hormones are improving, her cycle is steadier, and with continued treatment, she may be conceived naturally in the future. Jack learns he has flu B and rest. Later, Tutien buys him shoes as a small act of love. They celebrate quietly at a flower cafe. There, they hold hands and share a ringless vow while Jack senses they make me watch. Thank you for watching this episode.